My name is Peter Brown, and the title of my individual performance is Beyond Capitalism or Socialism, Distributism as a Turning Point in Economic Theory. Excuse me, Mr. Leonard. Excuse me, Mr. Smith. Make room for a third way. My name is GK Chesterton, and I'm glad you could join me today in my office in London. In the year of 1920, the Great War swept across Europe is finally over, but it has brought great devastation and loss. This year marks a turning point, which changes the economic future of many nations. But the Russian solution of socialism seems to overshadow all else. My friend George Bernard Shaw is among the many intellectuals who would leave the capitalist system in favor of the new Marxist ideas. Changes in the air, and changes are happening across Europe. Imagine these two men are here with me to discuss economic theory. The outcome of this discussion will be quite significant, as economics is a study of how goods and opportunities are distributed so people can put food on the table. Yes, these economic systems impact us all. To my right is Mr. Adam Smith of Scotland, who wrote a defining book on capitalism. And to my left is Mr. Vladimir Lenin, leader of the socialist experiment going on at this very moment in Russia. And then there's me. I'll have a third idea, called Distributism, to add to today's discussion. Mr. Smith, why don't we start with you?
Yes, well, in 1776, I published what was considered the first book on modern economics, The Wealth of Nations. When it was published, monarchs still controlled the economies and trade agreements of most nations. My idea calls for free trade. Businesses can now mass-produce goods, opening way for a division of labor. My idea needs less restrictions, so that businesses can compete freely with each other. They will strive to provide better goods at lower prices in order to beat out their competitors. In this way, the consumer wins as well. Capitalism encourages dreamers and creativity. So dream big, my friends. Imagine the possibilities of this freedom. You ask who will care for the less fortunate? Those who have wealth recognize their moral obligation to share. Capitalism encourages benevolence. My abundance and my faith both call me to be charitable. So you see, capitalism is working. Use your freedom, work hard, and anyone can achieve success. Mr. Smith does outline for us capitalism, its basic virtue, freedom. This freedom is important so that individuals can create new things. You know, though I've searched all the parks and all the cities, I've found statues of individuals, but never of committees. Yes, it seems this freedom is essential so that we can have individuals be dreamers and create new things. But we've seen the horrors of modern factories here in England. Dreams die in the assembly line as a result of long hours, low pay, and poor working conditions. People have become slaves to their jobs. So change is needed, Mr. Smith. Now we turn to the changes in everyone's conversation. The Russian Revolution is attempting to put Mr. Karl Marx's ideas into place. Mr. Lenin will now tell us how he's implementing socialism in Russia with its 150 million people. Rise up, workers, unite! Socialism is ready to take over the entire world. Capitalism has failed. It has turned your workers into wage slaves. You no longer need to put up with this exploitation. For too long, you've been held back by the wealthy bourgeois, who do no work, yet own the means of production. The proletariat, that is you workers, live at the mercy of the bourgeois. Socialism will create a workers' paradise. There'll be no more private ownership. All the needs of the worker will be provided by the state. We will all share in the wealth and the opportunity. No more bourgeois. The party must seize all lands and decide how to redistribute wealth. Socialism will ultimately lead to government-minded communism, which will strip away democracy. The party will make decisions for the good of all. We have succeeded in Russia. Yes, there has been bloodshed, and yes, we must press opposition to check out our secret police. Some people may not like these few inconveniences. We've opened the door, and communism will now take over the world.
Mr. Lenin does have a view supported by many. The Russian people have chosen socialism and communism over democracy and capitalism. But we must ask, is this change a good thing? While the Russian Revolution did initially lead to an increase in the standard of living for the poorest of peasants and educational growth for all, it lent itself to power-hungry dictators, the epitome of which is yet to come in a man named Joseph Stalin. Even now across Russia, there are purges against people who do not cooperate. Individual freedom is gone. Would we in England give up our freedom of speech and freedom of religion so that everyone can have the same amount of bread? I think the person who wishes to speak and is put in a gulag for speaking would not agree that change in Russia have improved his life. I've said that capitalism leads to greed for owners and poverty for workers, but in socialism, the rights of the individual are made subservient to the greater good. As we've seen, the peasantry's green rising in Europe, what the working classes and agrarians really want is the destruction of the slave status and creation of responsible citizenship. But the real problem here is that capitalism and socialism give us very similar results. How is that, you ask? Well, capitalism's character I call Hudge, and socialism's character I call Gudge. They feed each other. In capitalism, wealth ends up in the hands of a few. In socialism, government is controlled by the few. Big business and big government need each other and they feed each other. Both systems ultimately end up with a minority controlling the means of production. In capitalism, corporations, in socialism, bureaucrats. So I have come here with a third alternative to solve our political and economic woes. It is called distributism, and it returns power to the family unit. The family, you see, is the very microcosm of society and must always be protected and defended. The idea of distributism is to keep things locally owned and produced, as was done in the guilds of the Middle Ages. So you see, this idea is both a new one and an old one. It relies on a principle called subsidiarity, which means that anything that can be solved on the local level should be solved locally. What if we encourage people to shop locally? What if we voted to trim the power of central government? These are two places to start. This subsidiarity relies on a principle called solidarity, where there's a true sense of community that can focus on meeting the needs of the individual. For distributism to work, the national government should be restricted to only nationwide issues, such as roads, laws, and protection of the borders. I think this idea of distributism can work. It is an idea based on freedom, cooperation, and personal responsibility. We can create co-ops and family businesses. Working together and working locally, we can create a better way. I've been publicizing this idea in our journals, but the intellectuals of our time rush to embrace socialism instead. I feel the tide of thinking is already turned. I predict the future will be a pendulum between extreme collectivism, which is socialism, to extreme individualism, which is capitalism. I'm sorry to leave you on this note. Many have listened to my ideas in the past, but today, too many seem blind to the ideas of distributism. The world is rushing blindly forward. GK Chesterton wrote over 4,000 essays and 80 books that are still in print. He lectured and debated his ideas on distributism throughout Great Britain. His ideas seem to have gone unrecognized for a time. It wasn't until 5 years after Chesterton's death that this turning point in economic theory was fully realized. It was 1941 when Father José María Arismendi came to a small Spanish town suffering poverty and unemployment after the Spanish Civil War. He stood on street corners asking for money so that he could create a technical college where young people could learn trades at no cost. The young people that went to this college went on to create business co-ops that became known as the Mondragon Cooperative Corporation. Mondragon is founded on the principles of distributism. Today, it employs 84,000 workers in 256 cooperative businesses and is the largest distributive-based network in the world. Workers own the means of production, as there are no outside stockholders. After Mondragon, other cooperative businesses began springing up worldwide. There began a return to home-based family businesses. Owners began giving their companies to workers using the formula called ESOPs, Employee Stock Option Plans. These businesses are locally owned, family-friendly, and economically feasible. Distributism is a grassroots movement that has been building since the 1920s and is ready to burst forth. At the dawn of the 20th century, GK Chesterton opened the door to an alternative economic theory. For those who stepped through that doorway, success, freedom, and community are all possible. Peter Brown, Beyond Capitalism or Socialism, Distributism as a Turning Point in Economic Theory.
Well, congratulations. That was a wonderful in-depth presentation. The bibliography, amazing. You just read extensively around this. Maybe you could tell us what brought you to this subject first of all, and why you're interested particularly in this area.
Well, I've been interested largely in numbers. Math has been my passion for quite some time. and I've considered structural engineering and things like that. But as with the last few years, I've found I'm not quite as good at it as I am in English. And so I've started to take an interest in English. And so I've been looking around at things that combine both math and English. And economics is a study that involves crunching numbers, stocks, bonds, things of that nature, but also morals. Morals is a huge part of economics. And being a junior, I have not yet been exposed to economics in public school at all. In fact, all I will do is take a semester of economics my senior year. And so I was interested in looking into a topic that explored economics. And its turning point in ideas, it seemed as though there were two very obvious turning points in ideas. The introduction of capitalism, which I vaguely represented in my script, being Adam Smith, and the introduction of socialism by Karl Marx and implemented by men like Vladimir Lenin. But I wanted to look at an alternative, a third way, something that was a little more unique than capitalism or socialism. And I found a man named GK Chesterton, along with contemporaries such as Belloc. And they advocated for a third way that combined some of the best systems, some of the best qualities of both systems. In capitalism, the freedom of the individual and the ownership of private property. But the socialist concept of working together in the communal idea of joint ownership of production. And so I found that to be a very powerful topic. And so, yes, I came across it while looking through economic systems.
I'm curious, wonderfully done. Curious, as you did it, you decided to cross timelines to present everyone. What made you take that approach? How did you come to this?
Well, I'd actually considered the Russian Revolution for a time because I did not know of another alternative to economics. And so 1920 seemed as though it would be a time when the Russian Revolution, we had enough time to see the result of the Russian Revolution and socialism being implemented. And we had plenty of time to see capitalism being implemented. And meanwhile, Chesterton had begun to introduce distributism, and along with Belloc, in the early 1910s, so their ideas were being fully formed. I brought Adam Smith up to the present to be able to say, this is what happened in capitalism. This is, the possibilities of capitalism are great. We have wealthy people, we have a prosperity throughout the world, but at the same time, we also have a big gap. And we didn't see that when Adam Smith first introduced the idea. When he first introduced the idea, it was being implemented. It was still a mercantile society in England. He did get to see it be implemented before he died, but at the time, it was not. So I brought him to 1920. Lenin, of course, that was his time period, and Chesterton as well. Chesterton died in '36. So I was able to, I brought those all to one turning point. Since Lenin also died a few years after 1920, it seemed that would be ideal to at least get two of the characters in at once, and I could bring the ghost of Adam Smith back.